Look at the bright side of life. You know this song? Always look at the bright side of life. You know this song? Always look at the bright side of life. You don't know it? Look for it on the internet. Always look at the bright side of. This is the best advice that anybody can give you. And the second one is think of your peer. Think of the people that you're talking with, or talking to, or that you encounter with. Think of them as if from their own eyes. Try to see their point of view and talk to them on that level. It's all, as I said, it's easier said than done, but you can develop techniques to apply those advices. It takes some time, but life is much nicer when you're kind to people. You know, when you don't envy people, when you're not mad at people or angry or upset. Life is much better that way. You know, my father used to say, my father had a nice saying, you know, if somebody really pissed him off, he would say, you know what, you stay here, I'll go to hell.
I'll go where?
I'll go to hell. You stay here, I'll go to hell.
Because that would be better than staying there with that person.
And I'm saying, if you can always find a reason to be upset, a reason to be angry, you know, a reason to be dissatisfied, but life is much, much easier when you don't look for it.
הבנתי מה שרצית להסביר.
We got 5 minutes.
Okay.
Let's use our 5 minutes.
מה זה?
So these are my advices.
One more minute.
Okay.
So these are my advices. Be nice to people, be nice to your family, you know, treat them better than they deserve. Okay? Always treat them better than they deserve. That's the key. That's what I can tell you. You want?
חכם. איך אומרים?
Smart.
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 He is very smart. You know?
Let me ask another question I was kind of curious about. You've seen a lot change in your life, a lot of new technology.
ראית הרבה שינויים בחיים, הרבה שינויים בטכנולוגיה.
זה שלא, לא. השינויים היו אחרי שסגרתי את החנות. הם שינויים מאוד גדולים. זאת אומרת,
The changes were after she closed the store, and there were very large, very big changes.
אני נכנסתי איך קוראים לזה? למצב כזה שלא מצאתי לי מקום. בפרט אחרי מות אשר, היה הדבר הכי גרוע. לא מצאתי לי לאן, מה ומה, הייתי out. זאת אומרת, זה לא אותו בן אדם מה שהייתי קודם. ומאז מותו של אשר, בפני שהיינו הרבה שנים יחד, ואז ירדתי. אתה מבין? עד לידי כך שהיום, אם תשאל אותי אם פעם הייתי רוצה לצאת לבלות, היום לא.
גם את לא רוצה לצאת?
לא.
אבל את יוצאת?
מעט.
את הולכת להרצאות?
אני הולכת להרצאות. אני הולכת לברידג'.
אוקיי.
עשיתי את זה בכוח, אבל אני לא רוצה לצאת בערבים לקפה הזה, לקולנוע, לזה.
בסדר, גם אין לך מי לצאת.
יש חברה פה ושם, אבל זה לא מעניין אותי.
It says that the biggest changes that she has experienced in her life were not the technological changes. It's the personal changes, especially when Asher passed away. That put her in a totally different situation, and she got much less interested in the outer world. She has less friends. She's today when beforehand she would be glad to any chance to go out and have fun and and sit in cafes and so on. Now
Never.
she's not that interested. She can easily stay home
I like
and be
to
happy.
stay in the home.
You can stay home and be happy.
Yeah.
Technologically, she is not the person to ask that question. Technologically, I can tell you that the technological changes that I've seen in my lifetime, I don't think anybody has seen more changes than I did. Anybody in the world so far.
Well, there was a woman who lived in Osaka, Japan, who died about 3-4 months ago, and she was the oldest woman in the world. She was 117 when she died. She was 117. So just, she never left Osaka, right? And she traveled, but she never lived anywhere else. And so I looked it up, just thinking like, okay, well, what did Osaka look like, When she was 18 years old, the biggest building in Osaka was like, a Japanese tea house. It was maybe 2 stories tall.
Okay.
She was 18 in 1905.
Mom.
This woman who died 3 months ago, she died. In 1905.
Yeah, but that
she
doesn't
was-
mean that she was aware of all the changes. If she was not involved in the technological field,
Yeah.
then she was not aware that things have changed that much. I can tell you, for example, when I was a kid, okay, when they taught me calligraphy, when I went to the first grade, okay, in the first grade, the only thing they would let us write with were pencils, simple pencils, black pencils. On the second year, they gave us pens that were made of a stick of wood and a nail at the end, and an ink pen, where you dipped it and wrote, and then dipped it and wrote, and dipped it and wrote. That's in the second grade. That's how we wrote, with the pen and ink pen. Okay, and pen and inkwell.
Inkwell, yeah.
Inkwell. Pen and inkwell. That's how we wrote. And then on the 4th grade, I think, well, the first time that they let us have the fountain pens. First time that you could draw the ink into the pen and write without using the inkwell. Okay, and then I think on the 6th or 7th grade, we first saw the
ballpoint.
yeah.
Like today's
The roller,
big pen.
the
yeah.
rollerboard pen.
Yeah.
Yeah. First time that we saw that.
And that's
And this is only, I'm talking now about elementary school.
Yeah.
Now, on the 8th grade, for example, we started studying algebra, okay, and we started using at that time. You know what algorithm tables are?
Well,
You know what
abacus?
algorithm is? Logarithm tables.
Oh yeah.
Logarithm tables. Those were like pages with numbers on them that turned a number to its logarithm, okay, which is the basis of 10. And so instead of doing multiplication, you're doing addition. Instead of doing division, you're doing subtraction. That's the principle of logarithm. And then, instead of doing in the power of, you're doing multiplication. And instead of doing a square root, you're doing division. That's the idea. And we use those in the 7th and 8th grade. We use these logarithm tables. Okay, and then at the 9th grade, I remember we got the slide rules. I don't know if you ever heard of slide rules, but we started using slide rules. Initially they were from metal, and then they were from bamboo, and then came the little calculator, a very simple calculator that you could do all for subtraction, addition, and so on and so forth. I think also power. And then when I studied in the Technion here in Haifa, Here in Haifa, we started working, in the Technion, we started working on doing some programming, some software programming. And we had large drawers, like long drawers, with cards in them that were punched. That's where the word punch cards comes from. They were punched because the principle that they worked on was rays of light that went through the holes. Okay, that's how the machine knew what was written there. And so we had to run this long drawer with cards. We had to run it first one time. It was called compilation, and then we had to run it just to check that everything, all the cards were in the right place. After we did the compilation, we had to run it again, to run the program, and you will get a printed page when you finished with the sort of program that you ran. So this was when I was in the Technion. You know the Technion here? Technion is like MIT in the United States. We have the Technion in Haifa. It's the technological high school of Israel. It's pretty good. It's considered pretty good in the world. And then I worked for some years in some companies, and I went to America and I bought my first PC, and it was the Apple IIc. And you know, it was really primitive, but you had a keyboard, and you know, you could run very simple programs. They didn't have word processing there, they didn't have Excel sheets, nothing like that. But with time, that came too. Originally, it was for very simple games, you know, of what do you call this eating thing?
Pac-Man?
Pac-Man, yeah. That was...
Well, and I think about that too, and so that's kind of why I wanted to ask the question, because, you know, for me, I have similar kind of technological advances. Maybe not obviously as dramatic as going from a nail and an inkwell to an Apple IIc, but when I looked at this picture of Osaka in 1905, and I realized this person was 18, adult woman, there was, I mean, nothing. It was like a little village. It was like, you know, a couple houses, and then, you know, not 50 years later, just buildings. And, you know, I think of Chicago when I was 18, you know, already huge city, and yeah, since then some buildings go up, but you know, for the most part,
in Chicago you don't see much. In the physical Chicago, you don't see much of the changes, because the changes are basically technological. I mean, the changes are in computers, in cars, in aircraft. Okay, if you look, I remember the airplanes when I was young. It was nothing like you have today. I'm not talking about how fast they flew, but just.
But when Safta was young, they didn't exist.
Exactly, right. But the point is that she did not live in an environment that made her aware of all these changes. She didn't live in a technological environment. What she did for a living was she sold lingerie. Okay, that's what she did for a living. Her husband was a cab driver. It's not, she doesn't have the technological awareness of how much changes and how fast. In fact, people that I grew up with today, they see, you know, a notebook or a iPad or something like that, they get scared. If you didn't grow up with that, luckily I was lucky enough to, you know, to grow up with technology, because I always worked in a company that developed new things and put up new equipment and used new equipment for its own. So I was always aware of it, and I grew up with the technology. But many people of my age are scared of computers. You know, they call their sons or their grandsons to fix things for them. So Rivka is definitely not the one to ask this question.
All right, well, we have to stop, otherwise my mom will stop.